Welcome to the Explainer. You did something pretty bold. You took your MLOps and data engineering portfolio and handed it over to 3 different AIs for a full, tough-as-nails review. You wanted the real story on where you stand, and well, they definitely delivered. Let's dive into what they found.
So let's cut right to the chase, right? After digging through all your code, all your projects, what was the bottom line? Where do they think you are on the professional ladder?
And there it is. Look at that. A really clear consensus. The words are a little different, but the message is exactly the same. You're not a beginner anymore, not by a long shot. You are solidly intermediate, and you're right there, knocking on the door of a mid-level engineering role. So the big question is, how did they all get to that same conclusion? Let's break down the evidence.
Okay, first, let's talk about the good stuff, the things that made all 3 AI judges sit up and take notice. These are the core strengths they all agreed you have in spades.
You know, this one quote from Gemini just hits the nail on the head. This is it. This is your biggest strength, and every single judge mentioned it. You have architectural vision. You don't just see the algorithm, you see the whole system.
Yeah, all 3 AIs really honed in on your ability to think like a systems engineer. It's about the whole life cycle, right? And your choice of tools, Perfect, MLflow, Terraform, that shows you're thinking about production. But honestly, the thing they really loved, the clear documentation, and especially that technical design doc. That is something that so many junior engineers skip, and it really makes you stand out.
And they didn't just talk in generalities. They pointed to specific projects as proof. Your milk price prediction project, they called it your showcase, your most complete piece of work. The CDMX Ecobishi usage project was seen as this huge leap forward into serious data engineering. And Predmate got called out for having a professional setup that looks just like a real-world dev environment.
But hey, this wasn't just a pat on the back. You asked for a tough review, and you got one. The judges were ruthless in finding the weak spots, and they all zeroed in on one core weakness. One of them even called it a structural sin that kept popping up. This is the main thing holding you back.
And here's the thing. Despite all that great architecture, despite the smart tool choices, all 3 AIs flagged the exact same foundational problem. This is the one thing you really need to fix to make that jump from early mid-level to a solid mid-level engineer.
And here it is. This is the core issue. You're relying way too much on Jupyter Notebooks for your core logic. Look, notebooks are fantastic for exploring and prototyping, but for production code, it's what Gemini called an anti-pattern. Why? Because when your logic is trapped inside notebook cells, it's a nightmare to test, to version control, and to automate. For real-world production-grade work, that logic has to live in modular Python scripts.
And you can see how that one core habit causes all these other problems, right? Because the code is in notebooks, there are basically no unit tests, because it's hard to automate, pipelines need a manual kick to get going, it all connects. Moving from just functional code to truly robust, reliable software, that's the next big step.
But just focusing on the critiques doesn't tell the whole story. Maybe the most impressive thing that all the AIs found was the clear, undeniable proof of how fast you've grown as an engineer just in the last year.
Judge Manas actually laid it out perfectly. He saw your journey in 3 stages. You started out in the apprentice phase, just applying what you learned in courses. Then, about 7 months ago, you hit this specialization phase, a huge turning point where you went from just building models to building systems. And now, you're in the maturity phase, putting the whole MLOps lifecycle together. That kind of progress in that short a time, it's seriously impressive.
So, where do you go from here? Well, this is the best part. The judges didn't just point out problems. They gave you a crystal clear, consolidated action plan. Let's walk through your roadmap to mastery. Okay, priority number 1, and they all said this. Get those software engineering foundations rock solid. Step 1, modularize everything. Get that critical logic out of notebooks and into proper Python scripts. Step 2, learn to love testing. Get PyTest in your toolkit and start writing unit tests. And step 3, level up your CI/CD to automate everything. This isn't optional. It's the key to that next level.
Next, you're going to build on that excellent MLOps work. You've already got data drift covered, which is great. Now it's time to look at concept drift. That's when the real world changes and your model's predictions start to go stale. Then it's time to graduate from Docker Compose to Kubernetes. It's the industry standard for a reason, and it's a necessary step for working at scale.
And finally, keep pushing on that data engineering path. The next big thing for you is guaranteeing data quality. A senior engineer has a mindset of don't trust, verify. So get tools like Great Expectations into your pipelines.
After that, it's time to look beyond batch processing. Start dipping your toes into the world of real-time data streaming.
You know, the final message from all the judges was really summed up perfectly by this quote from Manis. It's part warning, part encouragement. Your progress has been fantastic, no doubt about it. But in this field, the learning never, ever stops.
So there you have it. A clear verdict: you're an advanced junior, on the cusp of mid-level. You have a precise roadmap that's all about shoring up your software engineering skills and learning to build for scale. Your foundation is absolutely solid, so the only question left is, what are you going to build next to prove you've mastered it?